Good morning, folks. It is hockey season. Canucks training camp technically started today with media day, with all the players, the coaches, everyone meeting with the media over the course of the day. But we just had the big press conference of the day, the one that matters the most, and that was Jim Benning and Travis Green at the podium for about 22 minutes this morning, starting at about 9:30 up until about 9:50 or so. They did drop a few nuggets, and this morning has been very eventful. If you're not sure, if you didn't know this already, training camp basically today is media day, and the next 3 days they're on the ice at the Abbotsford Center, and then on Sunday they play their first preseason game against Seattle. Now, they announced the training camp roster this morning, which had everyone you expected, including Patterson and Hughes, which basically means they're invited to training camp. Not that they have a contract yet, so keep that in mind. But the first big thing that happened this morning was all the rumors surrounding Travis Hamonic. Travis Hamonic, it was reported by Irfan Ghaffar, is that Travis Hamonic was on the Canucks training camp roster. However, it's my understanding that he's not currently in Vancouver and it's not injury related. So there's been rumors swirling around the Canucks have a player who's unvaccinated. Everyone's sort of flocking to thinking, oh, it's Travis Hamonic, all this stuff. And I made a video on it and I didn't post it. I made a video basically on if Travis Hamonic isn't at camp, who would compete for that spot? And you'd have names like Luke Shen, Madison Bowie, Brady Keeper, Brad Hunt, potentially all guys who could fill in. Now, I scrapped that video because right at the one of the first things that was then said by Jim Benning at the media availability is that Travis Hamonic will be at camp and that 100% of players and staff will be vaccinated at the start of the season. Now, that is big news because we had also news from the Oilers that they have a player who's unvaccinated and they're going to end up missing probably 30 games this season because you can't travel back and forth between the border. So every time you try to enter Canada, you have to quarantine if you're unvaccinated. So the Canucks will be at 100% vaccination, which, like I said, very important for Canadian teams, especially just on the hockey side of things. So it looks like even if Travis Hamonic is getting vaccinated, I don't know if it's if it was that he wasn't vaccinated. I've heard that it was protocol related issues, which we don't really know what that means. But in theory, 100% vaccination rate at the start of the season, which means the Canucks will be basically full go for the season and shouldn't be missing out on anybody. Now, Jim Benning also said there's a possibility that they'll bring a player or two in on a PTO. And there's a couple of reasons for this. The Canucks had a lot of depth that they signed during free agency, but there's been some injury issues. Tyler Mott just had surgery. Justin Bailey looks like he tested positive for COVID at the border in Buffalo, trying to get up into Canada. And I think Sutter's having some fatigue issues as well, Brandon Sutter. So the Canucks might just trying to bring in a couple of bodies for training camp, especially, right? You can bring in a guy just to come in, be a body at camp for the next few days. If there's scrimmages, things like that, you need more bodies there. And maybe we see someone, make a push and take a spot. I'll have more information on those if any PTOs get signed. Let's keep moving. Let's go to Patterson and Hughes. Of course, lots of questions were asked of Jim Benning about the current contract negotiations of Patterson and Hughes. And if you want more of my thoughts on this whole thing, Clay and I did our Canucks After Dark show on Monday that we talked at length about the whole Patterson and Hughes situation for about 10 minutes. You'll find the podcast itself linked below, and you can just scroll through it and find where we talked about it. Benning says, quote, "I'm disappointed that they're not going to be here for the start of camp." Adds that they don't think they're far apart and will keep working hard for a deal. He said he was going to call them this afternoon. Now, does that mean a deal gets done this afternoon? Probably not. And it's not that simple, right? They're in Michigan. They're training in Michigan right now. So if they do sign a deal, they'll have to fly up here. If it happened tonight, they could be on ice tomorrow, but probably the next day. However, I don't think it's going to get done today. We've repeatedly heard that the pressure point isn't the start of training camp. The pressure point is the start of the season. So the team wants them there opening night, October 13th. The players will want to be there October 13th. So keep your eyes open on that date because that's going to be when things get really tight if they aren't done by then. He also said, quote, "They're complex negotiations. They're two real good young players that are important to our organization. We'll continue to have conversations." A couple of different quotes there. But it looks like they're working. You know, it's not like they're not trying to get this deal done. The last big thing that came from this this chat, this media availability, was the third pairing on the left-hand side. And this is something I've talked about at length, especially on my podcast. Where there's really two spots locked in, and that would be Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Quinn Hughes, right? They are going to be your 1-2, Hughes number 1, Oliver Ekman-Larsson number 2, left-hand side defenseman. And there's three guys that could basically compete for that spot. And Travis Green said he sees the three as Rathbone, so Jack Rathbone, Olli Juolevi, and Brad Hunt. And these are the players that I would put there as well, and I'd probably lean towards Rathbone and Juolevi. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Waiver eligibility. If the Canucks want to ice the best lineup, in my opinion, Jack Rathbone gives you the best opportunity. Olli Juolevi isn't as dynamic of a player. We only saw Rathbone in a few games last season, but he looked like a true NHL caliber player. He was smart. He was dynamic. And I think he should get that third spot. However, he's not waiver eligible. So the Canucks could send him down to Abbotsford and he would not have to clear waivers. That is not the case with Olli Juolevi or Brad Hunt. So if the Canucks were going to, let's say, have one of these guys in the third pair, have one of these guys in the press box, and one of these guys in the AHL. Well, out of those three, you'd want Brad Hunt to be in the press box, right? Because that means Jack Rathbone and Olli Juolevi are playing games, whether that's in the NHL or in the AHL. That's the most important thing, is that both of them are getting NHL ice time. Now, if you have Jack Rathbone in your lineup, which I think is the best option, that means you have to put Olli Juolevi through waivers, which means he can just get picked up for free by another team, and the Olli Juolevi experiment is over. The other option is you put Olli Juolevi in that third spot, which I'd say might make your team a little bit worse, but it also means that, or the press box, I guess, and you could put Brad Hunt in, and then you could send Rathbone down without having to worry about waivers, and he would then get basically top pairing minutes in the AHL, which would probably be good for his development. But I think he is an NHL caliber player. So a lot to monitor here. Travis Green did say, though, quote, "Whoever is the best over the next few weeks, so over the course of training camp and preseason, will earn that spot." So Travis Green, fairly enough, he's the coach, not the GM, is focused on best player goes on the ice, which I think will be Jack Rathbone, but we'll see if there's some conflict there between Green and Benning on, well, we don't want to just send Juolevi to the minors, have him get claimed. Now, there's always a day where waivers goes crazy, like right at the end of the preseason, where every single player in the league basically goes through waivers. Like every team sends like 5 players to their AHL team, and there's like 100 players on waivers. If they're going to do it, they do it at that time, which makes it way less likely that he gets claimed, but there is still a bit of inherent risk there. And that's basically all I've got for this one. Who do you think will get those spots, and what do you think the contracts are going to look for Pettersson and Hughes? Leave a comment down below. Leave a like on the video. Hit subscribe. I'm going to be making Canucks content all year long, just like last year. So if you are interested in the Vancouver Canucks, make sure you're subscribed to this, my podcast, Canucks After Dark. You can find it in the description. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord. Do all that good stuff. It's all linked. Just go click all those links in the description. They will take you to good places. And I want to thank our members. We have a bunch of VIP members who aren't listed here. Thank you to you guys, and our backstage members and our GOAT member, Lucas. Thank you guys very much for helping support the channel. You guys allow me to make more of these videos and spend more time on them. So click the join button down below if you are interested in joining as a member. It's entirely optional, but you get a few extra perks if you're interested. And folks, Canucks postgame shows live start October 13th, but I'm actually going to do one this Sunday. Canucks and Kraken preseason will be live right after that game, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Canucks hockey's back, baby. Let's go. I will see you in the next one.